Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been the lone bright spot on a Blue Jays team that has had a miserable season, just to put it lightly. Now, his name has been getting brought up in trade talks pretty frequently, and the Jays have come out publicly and said that they're not looking to shop the star first baseman, but I'm sure they're picking up those phones. And a lot of teams are interested in acquiring his services, especially in a year where offense has been down across the board around Major League Baseball. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. What's up, everybody? Welcome into 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis. Today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Blue Jays first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who is having a resurgent month of July and has just really boosted his season numbers after a horrible start to his year. So he's been becoming one of the more feared hitters in baseball yet again. He was intentionally walked last night by the Tampa Bay Rays. Ultimately didn't pay off for them. The Jays ended up winning 6-3 and finally got back on the winning end of things. But Vladdy, has gone through these stretches where he's been dominant and he's looked like his MVP self when he finished as the runner-up in that award to Shohei Ohtani in 2021. But he hasn't really been able to put that sustainable production together over the course of a full season. And the way that I'm seeing him right now, the swings that he's taking, this is the closest that I've seen Vladdy get back to some of those heights that he experienced just a few years ago. And he was 22 years old at the time. He was expected to be able to do that for the entirety of his career, and he's just fell short ever since. He hasn't been able to duplicate those numbers. He hasn't been able to put together those kinds of stretches. And you could make whatever case you want, whether it was the ballparks that he was playing in, whether it was the juiced baseballs in 2021. I don't know what it was, but Vladdy just hasn't been able to encapsulate that success and keep it going. But this year, he's back. And let's just take a look at his numbers before we get into some of the trade reports that have been popping up. So these are his regular season numbers. 18 home runs on the year. He's got an OPS of 854, which is slightly above his career average of 846. And that 846 is boosted because of that 2021 season where he had a 1,000 OPS. So his numbers have really climbed. He's seen a resurgence in batting average, in on-base percentage, even though he's not really walking as much as he usually does. But he's putting together a really nice season, and there's no doubt that if he were to be made available on the trade deadline this year by the Blue Jays, that he would be the number one target in terms of bats. He would be the most formidable name on that list by a wide margin, and you could argue for Brent Rooker as well, but Rooker is a DH, and he is someone that, many teams have a hard time wanting to put in the field. So Vladdy, even though he's not a fantastic defensive first baseman, he's got a really good arm over there. He's good defensively, he's adequate defensively, and he'll be able to do a job for you, and you won't have to worry about putting him into your lineup every day and his defensive mishaps that maybe Brent Rooker would have playing the outfield. So I think all of those factors combined together, his decent base running as well, I think Vladdy will be the prime target for most teams that are looking to add a bat at the deadline. But the Jays have come out and said that they don't want to trade him, and I'm on that same fence. I'm on that same side of the ledger as a Blue Jay fan. I think I've seen enough out of him this year. He looks really good, and he's going to get paid in a year's time when he does hit free agency. But the Blue Jays are going to have to pony up, and they're going to have to give him that money because there's no use in losing him for nothing. And he's stated publicly that he wants to stay. That could just be hearsay, and that could be wrong. But, there are some other players like Bo Bichette who have said they wouldn't be shocked if they get traded and that it's business. And they haven't said that they want to stay publicly. So I think Vladdy has the right intentions. He wants to be here in Toronto. But we've yet to see an extension happen, and that falls on Ross Atkins. Let's just take a look at the stats here. In the 26 games post-haircut for Vladdy, and shout out to Chris Black, who does fantastic work on Twitter. He's got 30 RBIs, an OPS over 1 in 26 games post-haircut, and 10 of his 18 home runs have come after the haircut. So that's been nice to see. It's been a really welcome sight. And this is the trade report that I'm talking about. I covered this on Jay's Digest yesterday with Nick Goss. And MLB insider John Heyman said on Bleacher Report live stream today that he's heard the M's have been pretty aggressive trying to get all-star first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays. Now, John Heyman, not a big fan of him. I think he's a clown. I think he's a clown in the industry. He definitely has sources, but everything is all about New York to him, and he just takes unnecessary shots at people like he did to Jordan Lyles just yesterday on Twitter. But whatever. I mean, this is not a John Heyman discourse video. I just don't like the guy, but he does have sources, so I'm going to use him here. And the Mariners have been pretty aggressive in the pursuit of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and for good reason, because they're the worst offense in baseball, and their pitching staff has been amazing. They've kept them in games that they should not have been in, but the offense is just lifeless, and even worse than the Blue Jays offense, which is surprising considering some of the names that they have on that team. But they acquired Jorge Polanco in the offseason, hasn't worked out for them. So yeah, getting Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could definitely help out some of their offensive woes that they've been having. And they just released Ty France as well. So there's we look at all those things, and I definitely think Vladdy has a place on the Mariners. He has a place on any team around Major League Baseball pretty much, and he's a really good player. He's starting to get back to being one of the most feared hitters in baseball, and as a Blue Jay fan, that's nice to see. And final screenshot here to show you guys, trading Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doesn't make much sense unless the front office knows 100% he's unwilling to sign an extension. This tweet from Brandon Weil. Sure, he will probably be overpaid, but at least they will have a young player locked up to build around, similar to how the Red Sox did with Devers. Now, I get that he is probably going to be overpaid, but most athletes nowadays are overpaid. Trey Turner signed a $300 million deal with the Phillies at 30 years old, and he's been a good player for them. He's helped with their playoff success, but is that going to age well? No. You're paying them for the player that they are now, and then you're going to eat some money later on. That's what the Blue Jays did with George Springer. Worked out for a couple of years. They got some good years out of him, but now he's no longer the player that they signed from the Houston Astros. So it's only normal. It's natural selection at this point that a player signs a long-term deal. They try to get paid, and I'm all in favor of players getting paid as opposed to the billionaire owners declaring more money at the end of the season. But look, I like when a player gets paid, and you got to anticipate that when you give a long-term contract to somebody that they're not going to be the same player from year one to year whatever, if it's a 10-year deal, 12-year deal, whatever it is. But Vladdy, you got to back up the Brinks truck for him, and you got to keep him if you're the Blue Jays, if you don't decide to trade him. Now, I'm listening to offers if I'm Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro. I'm going to do my due diligence on that front, and I'm not going to shut down any trade offers. But if I am trading my star first baseman, I am making sure to get the best possible package that will set me up nicely for the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's got to be the number one priority. And on top of that, if you're trading Vladdy, you're trading everybody else. No one is off the table at that point. You're trying to get the most that you can for Bo Bichette, Kevin Gausman, George Springer, everybody. If you're signaling to the league that you're waving the white flag and trading Vladdy and you're looking to rebuild over the course of the next few seasons, then you have to go and follow course with everybody else. Everybody else has to be gone. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. Really appreciate the support that we've gotten on the previous videos, so check those out. It will be pinned at the end of this video, but make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to hit the like button as well, and give me your thoughts on this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. situation. For me personally, I'm just enjoying the way that he's been playing, and it's been bringing a smile to my face being a Blue Jay fan after this terrible, miserable season. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for making it this far, and shout out to baseballtown.ca as well for being a huge supporter of this channel. Would not be possible without them. So check them out today for all the latest and greatest equipment, whether it be bats, batting gloves, cleats, or gloves. I mean, check out baseballtown.ca to get geared up for the baseball or softball season. But until tomorrow, enjoy the baseball, folks.